If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need in one place. In fact, this season of Millennial and Pregnant was produced and hosted on Anchor. Here's what I love about it. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. This made it easier for me to edit my episodes on the go. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Hi, I'm Fatima.
I'm Brian, and you're listening to Millennial and Pregnant.
As we begin our journey through our first pregnancy, we wanted to share our experience. We pre-recorded episodes for this close-ended series. Spoiler alert, it ends with us having a baby.
And if you're looking to get pregnant, are pregnant, or just want to have a good laugh with us, then this podcast is for you.
We understand that every pregnancy is unique and has its own story. Here's ours.
So Fatima, how are you feeling this week?
I'm feeling great. Besides my hip pain. So I feel like I'm an old lady.
Old lady.
Yes, old lady. So it's been a struggle to find a comfortable position when I'm sleeping, just because I have to kind of, rotate or,
side to side
to make sure like my hips don't hurt too bad. But
as long as they're not, they already don't lie.
Yeah, exactly. The good thing, haha, Bri. The good thing is that I really just feel it when I'm sleeping, just because obviously I'm sleeping on my side. But when I'm actually up and about and I'm walking around, it's not as bad. So, that's the looking on the bright side. I'm just trying to take everything with, a good attitude, because there are some, people who really struggle with a lot of different things during the pregnancy. So a little discomfort, I'm okay with.
But this week, since we keep getting closer week by week, every week we get closer to the baby arrival. And I just want to talk about some of the things that we're so anxious about and excited about, because you have to have a positive, and it's not really a negative, but something that we're just like, oh my God. And I'm sure everyone who's having a baby for the first time or the second time or the fifth time is also going to feel some of this stuff. But it'd be fun to kind of talk about what we're anxious about, what we're excited about, as we wait for this little boy to arrive.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too. Like you said before, no matter if it's your first, your second, I think there's certain things that you'll always be a little bit anxious about. But it's okay. I think that kind of just helps you get into, okay, I need to prepare, or this is what I need to do to help me to relieve that anxiety. I think the biggest thing for me, and Brian probably feels some anxiety with this as well, is labor.
I do. I'm like, how am I going to? I'm not going to be able to help you other than it's okay, Fatima, breathe.
But honestly, that's the thing, is that you should be talking to your partner about your anxiety for labor, because they will be the person that's going to be in the room, and whoever else you decide is going to be in the room, about what you're anxious about and what you need from them. And also to just ask for their forgiveness before you go in there, because I know I could be a little snappy. So I'm imagining how I'm going to be during labor, that I'm going to probably need to, write some apology notes after this is all said and done. So that's a big thing. But, something that I've been doing to relieve the anxiety, obviously, is I've done some research and stuff, and watched this great documentary called, what is it?
The Business of Being Born.
The Business of Being Born.
Watch at your own risk if you are pregnant.
I think that this, not at your own risk, I think this is like one of the most useful things I actually watch, more than anything that I've read, or this, and talking to my mother has really, really helped. And I think that even though my mom has had so many kids, she said something really great and profound. She's like, but every birth is different, Fatima. So like, even if I tell you this is what happened with, when I had you or versus when I had one of your sisters or one of your brothers, it's going to be different, and every body is different. You might have been a little bit more active than I was, but I also didn't. She also tried to stay moving throughout her pregnancy too, and different other factors. So that was probably the best advice I also heard too, is just making sure that I know that everything is different. Take everything with a grain of salt. Watching about the art of being born, or what?
Business of being born.
The business of being born.
The art of being born would be very interesting.
It's just giving you a lot of information about the different interventions that they have during labor, especially when you're in the hospital, and what you need to know and how that's going to affect the process. So whether you want to be induced, epidural, whether you need to have a C-section, but making sure you're open-minded, like even though you're deciding, hey, this is my birth plan, or this is what I see envisioning happening during labor, you have to be prepared that sometimes that you have to pivot, and things are not going to go the way you want it to go.
Right.
So, but making everyone know around you how you want it to go, so that you can take those appropriate steps. So I think,
and to not get pressured into going in a direction that you don't want to go in, unless it's, again, medically necessary.
Yeah, because in that documentary, even though it was, the whole premise of Brown is just to be, taking back, the whole experience of giving birth and not having that intervention, how they've been having, it's been increasing. I think the percentage, don't quote me, it's like 40% of births are now being intervened with either inducing, epidural, or C-sections. Versus just doing it the, natural way, quote unquote, vaginally or without any medicine at all. So,
and how at-home births are on the rise because they're trying to avoid hospital intervention. So like the midwives and stuff, and it was really great to see. It was an amazing documentary, and I think everyone, even if you are not doing the midwife or you've already committed to hospital, whatever it might be, just knowing the different things that's going to affect you and what your options are key. Right. And it's made by Ricky Lake, so if you're a Ricky Lake fan, you'll like this as well.
I used to be, when I was younger, watched her
and
her talk show.
You're right. Labor is also on my list of anxiousness, but not so much. Like I think I'll know how to deal with you when we're there.
Yeah, you've told me a lot.
But also, like, okay, when should we go to the hospital? Should we go to the hospital now? How far away the hospital? And luckily the hospital is right around the corner from us. It's a quick, short car ride. We walk by it every weekend when we, cut through Central Park on the way to Michael's and Home Goods. But knowing that it's so close, it's right there. It's a 5-minute car ride. And that's how I've kind of relieved the stress about that.
So yeah, no, and I think so. Talking to my mom, watching documentary, and also looking. I've done some reading in Pinterest and books and stuff, but honestly, once you found something or you found like a little bit of advice that works for you, stop reading. That was the advice my mom also gave me. She said you need to stop doing your research. You know enough, because everything is going to be a little bit varied, and then you're going to have all these things pinned or books read and blah blah blah. Once you there's only but so many things you can go through. So
right.
Once you've got it down, just stop. You can go back and to refer to the things that you read before, but I have to wean myself off of Pinterest and wean myself off of reading all these books and watching documentaries, and just say, okay, I'm going to do this. And then another thing that I saw on Pinterest, all just this like advice, is just reading those like pregnancy affirmations. So, or labor affirmations, saying your body is strong enough. Your body was built to do this and stuff like that. It might seem really cheesy, but as you read that, you're like, okay. And I think I also read something before, it was not an actual affirmation. I said, even if you might not know what to do, but your body knows. Your body will give birth to your baby. Like it will push the baby out even without you really doing anything. So it will give birth. So your body is capable. So I think, I'm still going to be a little bit anxious with labor a little bit, but I think I'm a little bit more prepared.
Yeah. One thing that I'm anxious about is what happens when we leave the hospital and come home.
You know, being an uncle and an aunt, you're like, oh, like such a cute little baby. They come over, and then what do? They go home with their parents. They do not sleep. They don't sleep over. So that would be interesting when we're like,
at least for more than one night when we, we'll babysit.
Yeah, I don't even know if we babysit overnight before, without the parents being there. It was true. Like we were at their house, yes, overnight. Yeah. But I've never stayed alone overnight with the baby by myself. So this will be interesting.
You're like, now what?
So now it's your responsibility. But that's like an exciting and anxious feeling at the same time.
Exactly. I had that down in my excited as well.
Something that goes hand in hand with labor is obviously like early delivery. Everyone wants to make sure that, as you get closer to term, quote unquote, your baby is much healthier, and you have less risk and stuff like that. So just making sure we're preparers too. So once you tell us that our due date is XYZ date, we're preparing for that to happen. Right. But at the same time, I guess if we were truly preparers, we should prepare 2 weeks before and after, because it could essentially come sooner. But I think with me being so busy with work and just everything else, I just haven't had the time to really, really, really prepare. So early delivery is definitely at the top of my list. So this weekend we went all out with preparing and making sure we've checked. We had our list already, but now we're like, okay, let's just buy the stuff. Let's pack the hospital bag. Let's build the crib. Let's do what we need to do. Right,
because now we're about 8 weeks out from delivery. And so that's also, early delivery. Because, you tell us a certain date, and I'm going to back into that date. That's our planning mode. And you're like, oh my gosh, this could come sooner. Like, this could come a lot sooner. And so when we started thinking about that, we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Again, no one is mentally prepared to have a baby on the due date.
Yeah. I mean, one of those affirmations that I found, it was like, your baby will come when they're ready. So if they decide they want to be late, then they're late. Right. If they decide they want to be early and it's time to come out of mommy's belly, then baby will come out of mom's belly.
Exactly.
So
that was nice this weekend to kind of, cleaned out our apartment, kind of moved everything around. We set up the crib.
Probably still have a little more cleaning to do.
Yes. No, there's definitely a little more, maybe some more deep cleaning that we'll do.
Yep.
But we're at that point where we're like, okay, we're ready. Maybe.
Quote unquote.
We're physically.
The baby has somewhere to sleep, and we can take it home.
Yes.
And then just another thing for me is, once we made the decision that we wanted to at least, try breastfeeding and do it for at least the first few months of life, that's also just something that has also been making me a little bit anxious, but this was something I did my research a little bit later on. So I found like a video and like a thing that I pinned that seemed really, really, really helpful, and just kind of compared it to other things that I was seeing, and it pretty much was saying the same thing, but I liked the way that this lady walked through the steps and stuff. So, I'll just keep reading that up until the time that we get there, but that we have the baby. But obviously practice makes perfect. So I'm imagining I will also have some issues with, making sure I get familiar with breastfeeding, the importance of the latch. Like that's everything you see. It's like, make sure your latch is right. Like when the baby latches on and stuff like that. So it's really important. We really want to make sure this works out. So that's something that's just brings a little more anxiety, but not anything close to labor or early delivery, but definitely something I want to think about because, okay, as soon as the baby comes out, they talk about how the first breastfeeding milk is like, liquid gold is what they call it.
Liquid
gold. It's really, really, it's high in like all the immune fighting or whatever things and nutritions and stuff. So you want to make sure you get that to your baby. So that's another thing that, once again, I'm trying not to over prepare, overthink, overread anything. So, I found 2 things that worked for me, saved it, and then I'll just refer to it afterwards and just practice once the baby comes.
I know. And part of feeding the baby, it's another anxious moment is how we're going to have to communicate with something that won't be able to talk back to us.
Yeah. I think that's fine with,
But also the exciting part of learning what a certain cry might mean.
Yeah. Honestly, and I think definitely our nieces and nephews have helped with. My mom would be like, if you're getting anxious because you're changing their diaper, or you don't have their bottle ready for them, or in my case, I haven't whipped out my boob yet. Like, babies cry. I think that's something. She's such a wise woman. She says babies cry. They're going to cry. So don't get anxious when your baby's crying because you're changing the diaper. They're going to cry a little bit and then they're going to stop because now they're going to have a dry diaper. So you can't let the crying make you anxious.
Right.
So this my nephews and nieces have definitely prepared me for, because now when the baby's crying and I'm trying to get the bottle ready, I used to be like, just, rushing around, but I don't do that anymore. And I think that's something that I'm actually not worried about at all.
True. And also, I don't think I'm anxious anymore about changing diapers because of that massive poop I had to change in one of our nephew's diapers.
Now, note that he said that one massive one. So this is what happens, and I warn all those aunts and uncles too. Do not try and avoid changing the diaper, because the one time when there's no parents around and no one else to hand the baby off to, that's going to be their worst, and it's karma. It's going to be their worst that they've ever had in their entire baby life. And no one's going to be there to save you, and you have to change the baby because they're going to be miserable. And so that's happened to Brian. He kept avoiding it. And I don't really care.
I would always disappear out of the room.
Dirty diapers do not bother me, at all. Even though I have a really bad gag reflux and all that stuff, it's like baby poop. I don't care. Although sometimes they could look like adults, but whatever.
That's what I had to deal with.
Yeah, that's what you get. So
it was karma.
So karma. So people do not try and avoid it, because that's what happens to you.
Yeah.
But just switching gears, just being excited. Obviously, wait, do you have something else?
I had a few more, but it's not necessarily, what is going to happen immediately, but will my kid like me?
They're going to like whoever has the food.
They're gonna hate us.
No, they're not gonna hate us, because I'm gonna have the food. So
you're gonna.
They're gonna definitely like me.
I just meant when they grow up. When they're teenagers, or I think teenagers will hate their parents regardless. We have a lot of years
to worry about that. I think.
Will my kid grow up and hate me?
I mean, my mom used to.
That's a while down the line.
You're not supposed to be friends with your kids.
Tell that some people out there.
You're not supposed to be friends with your kids. You're supposed to parent them, and then now I have such a good relationship, and then when you get older, I've have built a friendship with my mom as well. So it's but it's important when they're going through that time that they have a parent.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation on parenting styles and what what you want to do.
Yeah, that's we're a decade away from worrying about that for now.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So back to now, we're excited. We're just excited in general, and one of my things is just the baby. I'm just excited for this baby to arrive.
Seeing how they look, how they react when they build their little personality, when
their
they build
smile.
Their little personality. Yeah, that'll be.
I hope they laugh at all of my jokes. I've been able to make all my nieces and nephews laugh.
True. You have been good on. You have a good track record with that. So. But then what if it doesn't happen?
I know, because they're gonna hate me. That's why.
You can't think like that.
I know. But bad parents don't worry about being bad parents. So it's a good thing they're worrying about that.
And it's just exciting to, also grow your, to grow your family and seeing, I think I'm also excited to see, you see Brian with his nieces and nephews, but then you're going to see him with his own child, and seeing your partner with the kid will be very exciting to see and interesting to see how they react and stuff, and if it's going to be a little bit different than how they interacted with other babies.
I know, because when I see you with our other nieces and nephews, I'm like, oh, look at Fatima, she's a mom. She has that maternal instinct. Yes,
maybe.
You're there, you switch into gear, you know what you need to do, whether or not
although
in your head, but you make it look like you know what you're doing.
Maybe someone my younger sister Mary is like really, really good with babies. Probably, I think she was probably a little bit better than how calm she is, or like how she handles the. It's very interesting to see. I thought I would be more like that. She's actually really, really good with that. So it's nice to see, but I thought I would be a little bit better, but maybe with my own kid I would be a little bit better, or maybe I'm just being overly critical with myself. But it'll be
she is.
Yeah, she's really good with it. So, am I horrible? No, I don't think so. Like I managed to, our little nephew Malachi, when because he's like a breastfeeding baby, and like in the very beginning phase, all they want is they want their moms. I managed to calm him down, and even my brother was like, "Oh wow, he's never even really went at that early stage when he like fell asleep on when I like rocked him to sleep," mostly because he had his like lips pressed against my arm, my bare arm. So I think it was just comforting for him.
Yeah.
But I knew that would be comforting for him, because even if he wasn't hungry, he likes to feel when he was younger, he liked to feel that, the skin on his lips.
Yeah.
just being a breastfeeding baby, I think that comforts them.
I know. And like our other little nephew, he like me, he overheats.
Yeah.
So when he's crying, I'm like, I know how you feel. So I'd like vent him out.
Yeah.
Get him down to like just his onesie.
That's like the first thing you do with him, because he's usually hot. So you're like, okay, if he's really fussy when he comes in, you have to take off his
layers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel your pain, and I got to know what his hot kind of like whine was, and helping that out. Also the one with the big poop. And then
he was either hot or hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And then getting him to sleep, I like did that weird hypnotizing thing where he would not go to him, and Malachi, I got to go to sleep. Malachi fell asleep, so then the other kid would not go to sleep, and I'm like, you can't cry, please don't cry, because you're gonna wake up the other baby, Nige.
Yeah.
He was gonna wake up Malachi, and so I'm like, please don't cry, you're gonna wake up the other one, please don't cry. And so I looked at him, and I looked like I was tired, so I would slowly close my eyes and like nod my head, and then I would look at him, and he looked like he was getting sleepy from looking at me, and I'm like, I know how. And then he finally fell asleep, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm a magician.
Sounds like you gotta trick them. Even when I think Riley was really good with this, like if you just kind of like brushed your hands over her eyes. She was also really good with like the like she would go to sleep with like the music.
Yeah.
But you'll find like all the little, they're all a little different. I think that's
what I'm excited about, to figure out
their little quirks,
how this kid is going to work and operate.
And once you find something, they're pretty predictable, and then you just keep doing what you were doing before.
I know. I'm just so excited.
I know it's going to be, it'll definitely be a change, but
a good change.
It'll be a good change. And I think that all those things that we were excited with, it's triumphs the anxiety.
Exactly. And the anxiety is just going to be there anyways.
Yeah, exactly. These things are like life, it lasts for a lifetime. And the other things, it's going to pass, like the labor.
Exactly.
Learning how to breastfeed, all those things are going to, once it's done, it's done. But then the other things of having a kid around will be around forever.
I know. We're so excited.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Millennial and Pregnant.
Since you made it this far, share our series with a friend.
To follow our journey in real time, head over to liliesandloafers.com.